Well, hey there. Welcome to the Home to Haven podcast. We are so excited you're here. If you're new, we are the Turners, and this is your home for faith-filled content to help you communicate in your relationship.
That's right. We are so glad you're here. And this week, before we even get started, we wanted to share a special announcement with you.
What it is?
We have been working on something super, super exciting behind the scenes.
Major, can't share it yet, but it's going to be really awesome, kind of exciting news.
Yeah, that's right. So for the past 2 months or so, we've been in meetings with our team. We've been strategizing. We've been sitting with our designers, and we are ready to bring something really special to you soon.
Seriously, we can't wait. We've been praying over it and working hard. But for now, know that it's coming and you're going to love it.
That's right. And so the best way for you to make sure that you're not missing any of these details in the big reveal is to join our email list, right? So it's just once a week, every Thursday. It'll give you helpful tips to really work on your communication and get updates from us at Oak Haven. So think of it as your weekly dose of encouragement, along with a little behind the scenes sneak peek at our lives as well.
So with everything's happening behind the scenes, so much going on, we wanted to press play on some of our most loved episodes from the past 2 seasons. These are the ones that you've shared, you've replayed, and you've also messaged and reached out to us about.
Yeah, so while we're creating new tools and resources for you specifically, you can go ahead and listen right now to these powerful conversations. After all, faith comes by hearing, and
right.
hearing.
And hearing.
God.
That's right. So before we go, do us a quick favor and
They should hit the thumbs up, right? If you're watching on YouTube, do that first.
that's right. And if you haven't already, again, join the email list. We're not going to spam you, but want to make sure that you don't miss what's coming because it's huge. It's amazing. It's going to be great. All right. Thanks again. Want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, for everyone being on board. And we're praying for you daily. And we know that your communication is going to go to its next level. So let's go now to today's episode. Everyone, welcome to the Home to Haven podcast. We are Terrell and Jen Turner. We teach couples how to communicate in their relationships so they can build a haven of peace and love. This is your home for faith-based, beautiful content. Beautiful. I said beautiful because it's beautiful. Communication is so beautiful when you're understanding one another. This is your home for that kind of content. So if you're looking for tips and strategies that's faith-based but helps you communicate more effectively with your partner, this is your home.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to follow us as well on Instagram and also TikTok at Oak Haven Company. You can find more content there. Also on our website, we have a lot of resources for you, oakhavencompany.com. Go there, check out some of our courses that we have, some of our freebies that we have, valuable content. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you are right at home if you are looking, like Terrell said, for that faith-filled content for improving your relationship through communication.
That's right. Today, we're taking a deep dive, giving you some strategies on active listening. Let's talk a little bit about what that means and how we're helping them communicate today.
That's right. So when you talk about communication, some people will say communication 101, you have to know how to listen in order to communicate. Right. So let's take it a step further. In order to know how to listen, you have to be actively listening.
Correct.
So to be a good active listener, you are really showing the other person that you are hearing what they're saying, that you're being attentive to what they're saying, that you're in tune with what they're saying, and it's not just a one-sided, one-way conversation.
It's so important. Again, we're going to always base all of our advice and coaching to you based upon God's word. We believe Proverbs 9:1 that wisdom will build the house.
Right.
And so that same book, Proverbs 18:13, Solomon says that it's a shame. It's almost he says that it's almost embarrassing and foolish to give an answer before you listen.
Okay, I like that.
And so that is such a great proverb that one translation also says it brings confusion.
Okay.
So that when you begin to answer a question or jump into a conversation without truly pausing to actively listen, it creates confusion. Okay. And that's where a lot of discord and a lot of miscommunication comes from, because we really didn't take the time to listen to understand
Right.
where my partner's coming from and what they're actually saying to me.
Right. And instead, what are we doing? So instead, a lot of the times we're sitting there thinking about what we need to say next, or what our opinion is, or how we might feel about the situation,
Cool.
or being reactive to how our partner or significant other is non-verbally communicating to us as well. Something might trigger a thought in our brain to be like, why are they acting like that? Or
Sure.
why are they saying this? And so we start
You're not even
automatically.
listening to me. You know what? Just forget it. You know what I'm saying? Because there you with that face right, and we break down. We got walls up, and we've reacted and responded. And maybe that person was on a completely different ways.
Mhm.
Maybe they had a nose itch. I don't know, right?
Okay.
I'm just throwing things out there.
Right.
No, you don't know it. You don't know, right? Bring it down.
Mhm.
Bring it down. So, and also some things that affect this is we can go into conversations with walls already built up. We
Absolutely.
can go into conversation already judging the other person.
Absolutely.
They're not going to listen. They don't understand me every time. Right. And we've already preconceived and
Mhm.
prejudged them before even having the conversation.
Right.
So to really work on lowering the defenses and opening ourselves up, right? It takes being vulnerable,
Right.
but saying, you know what, I'm not going to go into this conversation already preconceived how the outcome is going to be.
Right. And building that trust together is really important too. We talked about that in the last episode. But whether or not you have built that trust or maybe have that trust with anybody, you can still take that responsibility of, I can actively listen to what somebody else is saying,
Sure.
really, no matter what they're going to communicate to you. If they decide to communicate to you in a very aggressive, yelling, you can
Sure.
still actively listen, right? You need to take that responsibility and say, I can do this. I can listen to the other person without being so reactionary.
Well, there's some things we can do that. How do I do that? How
Right.
can I actively listen when I feel like I'm being attacked, when the information I think is incorrect?
Mhm.
You know, it takes patience,
Mhm.
it takes skill, it takes wisdom to keep your mouth closed
Mhm.
while that other person is just ratting it off, right? So
Absolutely.
that takes self-control.
Mhm.
That's one of those fruits of the spirit.
Right.
But the other part of that as well, in addition to that, is okay, what are they really trying to communicate? And this is something that I've had to learn as I deal with individuals who maybe aren't as, I don't want to sound
Yeah.
pious or proudful, but maybe aren't as advanced in communication as
Right.
I am, right?
Sure.
They don't have those skills.
But they haven't learned them
They
yet.
haven't
Right.
learned them yet. They have the skill, but haven't learned them. They haven't learned how to communicate effectively.
Right.
So what are they trying to say?
Exactly.
What are they trying to communicate? Why did they respond that
Right.
way? You know, there's a great example I've given to you about an individual where their spouse was going through a surgery
Mhm.
and they were having some pain.
Right.
Well, the husband was responding in anger. Well, he didn't know how to properly communicate support. He was upset. Of course, he wasn't upset at her.
Mhm.
He was upset that she was in pain.
Right.
And he didn't know how to properly communicate that so that he would channel that anger onto things, right?
Right.
And so we have to understand everyone's not perfect. We are human. We are going to make mistakes. No one is a communication master guru.
Right.
And so, you know, let's give one another grace and try to really, what is he really trying to communicate? Where's this coming from?
Right.
Why would he respond that way? Why would she say those things? And try to gain that understanding. Again, really listen to what they're saying or trying to say
Mhm.
and try to get that on the same page.
Right. And really, when you're actively listening, you're observing and listening to what they're verbally saying, but you're
Sure.
also watching their body language and those
Sure.
nonverbal cues. So you might ask yourself, why is this person acting in anger? Or what do you think is underlying? What is bringing about that anger? Because there's not going to be that anger or that resentment or anything for no reason typically. So you're trying to get to that root cause by actively listening. And one way that you can also do that is when you hear something that someone said, you repeat back to them and
Yeah.
say, so I heard you say this. Is that correct?
Right.
And then you can allow them to respond and either correct you or say, yes, that was what I was saying. Right. And so you can go back and forth and really build upon what the other person was saying.
Great key. And sometimes, depending on the person you're talking with, again, with these sometimes dysfunctional relationship, you can say, hey, listen, you know, I'm really wanting to understand
Right.
and get this correct. do you mind if I say back what I'm hearing?
Right.
I heard you say this. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, great. So, and then go from there
Right.
so that we are confirming what you said
Hmm.
is what I heard, and that I repeated it back to you to confirm not only did I hear it, but I understand it.
Right. You're making sure you're on the same page, right? And you're working really towards understanding, right? Not just the communication back and forth of you said something and then I got to say something and then you got to say something. But if we're just saying things back and forth, we are communicating technically at that point. But if we don't have understanding of each other, then it's really going to result in nothing.
Yeah, again, I've said the scripture a lot. So Proverbs 4:7 says, in all you're getting, get understanding. So there are some questions you can ask. How do we get on the same page? Okay, what about this don't you understand? I've
Mhm.
asked you that question.
Yeah.
What about how can I explain it more clearly?
Mhm.
And again, tone plays a very key, right?
100%.
Wow. What about this don't you understand?
Right.
Right? That kind of comes off like you're dumb
Hmm.
versus, okay, what part of this isn't clear?
Hmm.
Right? Same question, but two completely different um intents.
Right.
So it's so key that you hold the heart of your person in high regard because the heart is very tender.
Hmm.
And so you want to make sure that I'm handling this heart with care, that I don't bruise it, that I don't hurt it, that I don't lose that trust, that I don't disrespect our space.
Right.
And so treat that with care for both the man and for the woman,
Right.
that I'm honoring this and my intent. And again, we got to establish kind of our ground rules or
Mhm.
our rules of war. We're on the
Right,
same
for
page.
sure.
We're on the same team. I'm here for you. I'm here for your good. My thoughts towards you is, are good, not of evil. God tells us this,
Right.
right? That's that verse.
Right.
To bring your expected in. So he's telling us off the top, hey, when I communicate to you, I'm communicating with you with all my love. Let's make sure that we let our spouse or our significant others know that.
100%. I love that you brought up that example because we've had multiple times where we're trying to communicate and it's just not clicking. And you've taken a second to say, okay, how can I make this clearer for you? How can I get you to understand? Because for some reason that connection isn't
It
there.
happens,
Yeah.
right? We are human. There's going to be topics. It's just not clicking.
Right.
Or maybe it's a bad day, had some bad beef broccoli or whatever it was. And it's for whatever reason,
Right.
we are just not. And I've said it to like, what is going on?
Right.
Normally, we're just like in sync. We're just, sometimes mind melding. We can do it without
Right.
talking.
Mhm.
What's going on today? And you might be like, I had some stuff going on at work or whatever it is, or I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe you just don't know. It's like, I'm not understanding what
Yeah.
you're trying to say right now. And there's even been times where you have said that. And again, I'll repeat my side of the story or whatever we're trying to convey.
Especially, sorry to cut you off. For us, I don't want to say contention, but we have to really extremely work when it comes about budget. I do not really just get numbers the way that you do. And so there's a specific way you have to talk to me in order for me to get it,
Mhm.
because you're just rambling off numbers and stuff. And I'm just like, I am so lost. I have no idea what you're talking about. Back it up.
Right.
Right. And so it's key when you have those topics and it can be very confusing, or you always aren't on eye to eye, or someone's a little bit more comfortable in that
Right.
subject.
100%.
That
Yep.
you demonstrate patience, and you like, wait a minute, I don't want to lose them. Let me slow it down. And sometimes you got to dumb it down and help them along in that conversation,
Right.
so that you are on the same page. You guys get through it.
And there's been conversations that we've had and we'll go back and forth. And ultimately I'll say, we're saying the same thing, right?
Right.
We're just not saying it the same way, but we're
Right.
not really in disagreement. We're actually saying the same thing.
Sure.
It's just coming out differently. But if we would have stopped the conversation, the first, quarter of the conversation, not trying to work back and forth, we would have ended it with a disagreement.
100%.
And many times disagreements can lead to arguments or lead to differences. And so you need to be able to work through that, right? Actively listen to your partner. Take that time to breathe,
Yeah.
renew your mind in the scripture, because like you said, ultimately you're going to have that self-control if you're that's a fruit of the spirit, right?
Yeah, this is not easy, right? So you got to work at it. You have to want to work at it. You have to want to listen. I want to work through this. I want to hear you.
Mhm.
And you may need to communicate that. I want to hear you.
Right.
I want to get this. I
Right.
want to understand what you're
Right.
saying. And sometimes, again, we talk about not using you language. Be the bigger. Hey, I'm not getting it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not. I'm trying, but for whatever reason, I'm not getting. Can you try it again?
Mhm.
I'm not understanding. What about this is this? How does it add up to this?
Right.
How do we get to this? Okay, I understand that part, but I'm still not clear on this part, right? And just be patient and practice it, and don't be so frustrated why they're not getting it, or I
Right.
don't know. Just bring the defenses down.
Right.
And sometimes we can just be so defensive and so on edge,
All in the
that-
feelings.
all in the feelings,
emotions.
that the person that we most care about, we're pushing them away instead of bringing them in.
That's right. If you hear somebody say that to you, like, hey, I'm trying to understand you. I'm trying to figure out where you're coming from, what you're trying to say, that immediately sets the other person at ease, right?
Okay.
Because it's okay, this person is trying. They're not against me. They're trying to figure out, work towards a resolve the issue or whatever.
Sure.
And so that's going to just help any and every conversation.
Sure. I know we're short on time, but again, our specific example is budget. Can you think about anything specifically that we may go through or talk about? But I know it's specifically for us, it's finances, or I'm paying this, or
Right.
I think it was tuition for the kids one time. And you're like, well, they need this, this, and that. And I'm just like,
And then when
and if they pay, if we owe this and they give us this off, then we only pay. I'm like, what?
Or there's been times where I've already allocated money for a certain area,
Okay.
right? That it hasn't come out of the accounts yet, but
Okay.
I've already know in my mind we've already need to set aside $2,000 for this or whatever it happens to be. But you might look at the number and say, well, we have such and such amount in there. And I'm like, well, not really, because this happens, this happens, this happens, right?
Sure.
So when you're asking, well, how much do we have in this account, or how much do we have in this account? I can't just say we have $8,121.53 when that's what you want to hear, right? You want a
Correct.
clear and direct number where I have to say, well, of that $8,000, this is already allocated
Right.
for this.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
You're like, well, of that $8,000, then this is that and the other. Well, then give me the number
Right.
after the allocations.
Right. And then, I mean, budget finance stuff takes time,
Don't
right?
give me all this. Well, we got to do this. What is the number?
Right. And he's like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. And I'm
Right.
like, this is how it goes. Stuff doesn't get pulled out. Like for tuition, that doesn't
Sure.
get pulled out till the 10th of every month.
Sure.
It's going to be in there before we need it, because that's how we run our finances, right?
Sure.
We run with what we have before we spend it, type
Right.
of thing. So anyway, that's an example of how.
It's a great example. And so I've got to be patient, that I've got to honor, okay, she's trying to explain this to me. I know I'm not getting it, but she's being respectful to say, this is what happens, and here's the process. And this is why I can't give you the answer right now, but here's what I have for you thus far.
Right.
And in my brain, okay, I can respect that. I also need for you to understand,
Right.
I just need a number that I can work off of so that I know where we are.
Right.
And then so you have to be like, okay, before I explain all this, let me give him a number,
Exactly.
and then go back and say, it's lower for this because this, that, and the other.
Yes. See, so we've worked through that multiple times, right?
And that's taken us having conversation. That's taken us listening to one
Learning
another,
each other.
learning one another, understanding what we need, how we communicate, why we communicate.
Mhm.
And we talk all about this in our various master classes, in our various courses. So
That's right.
if you want to go in depth about that, please go to oakhavencompany.com, and there's some great resources there for you.
That's right. You can also grab our freebie out now. This is extremely important if you're trying to work through a conversation or
Yeah, it is.
figure out how to get your communication across to your significant other. And that is our communication checklist. So it's actually called our Communication Instant Improvement Checklist.
Yep.
You can download that today, work through the checklist, and you can instantly improve how you're communicating with your partner.
Yeah, you go through this checklist, and it'll let you know, like, hey, did I do this
Right.
first? Have I really Was I patient?
Right. Have I done this part,
Right.
this part? Lists out all the things to
Yeah.
consider.
And you check through that before you really sit down and have a sit down conversation.
Right.
And you work through this, you'll see some instant improvements the moment you do the checklist. So go to okhavencompany.com. You can sign up there, or for your convenience, click the link in the description. It'll
There
take
you
you
go.
right there and you'll get it. We thank you so much for listening. Any questions or comments, put them in the messages, put them in the DMs, and we would love to answer those questions. And we will see you next week. God bless.